The strongest minds, they do not announce themselves. They do not signal. They do not posture. They certainly do not demand attention. Their presence alone, their very existence, destabilizes weaker systems. Why? Because weakness relies on noise, while strength is silent. You were never meant to be calm in this world. Calm can be performed. Calm can be rehearsed. Calm can be mimicked by anyone wearing a mask of peace. What you were actually meant to develop was containment. And there is a profound, fundamental difference. Containment cannot be faked. It does not shout. It does not persuade. It never, under any circumstance, explains itself. A contained mind does not leak energy outward in a desperate attempt to manage how others perceive it. It simply holds pressure, and pressure reveals everything. This is why people grow uneasy around you when your mind begins to harden. Not because you are cruel, not because you are hostile, but because you are no longer transparent. You have become an enigma. No one fears the loud man. They fear the one who does not need to speak. The moment you stop reacting, the moment you stop defending and stop justifying your internal state to external chaos, something subtle but irreversible happens. People begin to project. They call you cold. They call you arrogant. They call you dangerous. What they are actually saying is, I can no longer read you, and that makes me vulnerable. You did not arrive at this coordinate by accident. Something cracked. A belief collapsed. A role you wore for years, one that once kept you safe and socially acceptable, suddenly stopped fitting. At first, it showed up as exhaustion. Then, it became irritation. Finally, it turned into a quiet, simmering disgust for the way you once explained yourself to people who were never actually listening. You did not withdraw socially. You withdrew internally. Words began to feel expensive. Reactions felt childish. You still function. You still engage. But something inside you is no longer participating blindly. It is watching now. It is watching impulses arise and dissolve. It is watching the need to be liked surge and lose its momentum. It is watching the urge to prove yourself slowly, quietly, die. This phase feels isolating, because it is. The old incentives no longer work. Praise feels thin. Criticism feels irrelevant. You are not depressed. You are disengaging from a weak contract. Isolation is the laboratory of the soul. In the dry heat of that loneliness, the social self, that part of you built by your parents, your teachers, and your peers, begins to incinerate. It smells like burning rubber. It feels like a fever. You will find yourself sitting in rooms full of people laughing, and you will feel absolutely nothing. Not because you are arrogant, but because you are no longer tuned to that frequency. You are hearing the underlying desperation in their laughter. You are seeing the invisible strings of social validation being pulled in real time. Once you see the strings, you can never go back to being a puppet. This is the point of no return. Many people flee back to the noise at this stage because the silence is too honest. The silence tells you exactly who you are when no one is watching. If you can sit with that silence until it turns into a weapon, you win. What you interpret as numbness is not decay. It is precision forming. Your nervous system is no longer rushing outward to stabilize others. It is consolidating inward. This is containment, and containment always feels lonely before it feels powerful. The average mind is not built for strength. It is built for approval-based survival. From your earliest conditioning, you were trained to outsource your center. Approval meant safety. Disapproval meant danger. So the nervous system learned speed instead of depth. React quickly. Adjust. Apologize. Explain. This creates a reactive mind, fast, expressive, and ultimately owned by external signals. Society depends on this. Institutions require predictability. Groups require conformity. Power requires legibility. A mind that cannot be read is difficult to manage. A person who does not react cannot be steered emotionally. Someone who does not explain cannot be trapped in dialogue. So weakness is rewarded. Strength is pathologized. Not because strength is evil, but because it is inconvenient. You must understand that the world has a vested interest in your fragility. A fragile person is a consumer. A fragile person is a follower. A fragile person is a predictable data point in an algorithm. When you stop leaking energy, you become a black hole in the social economy. You take in information, but you give nothing back for free. No free smiles to ease a stranger's insecurity. No free explanations to soothe a coworker's incompetence. No free emotional labor to stabilize a partner who refuses to grow. This refusal to transact is seen as an act of war. You will be accused of withholding. You will be told you are emotionally unavailable. This is a linguistic trap. What they mean is that you are no longer available for theft. You have put a lock on your temple, and they are angry they can no longer loiter in your sanctuary. To be unbreakable, you must be willing to be the villain in a weak person's story. If you are afraid of being the villain, you are still seeking approval. And if you are seeking approval, you are still owned. Nietzsche understood this. Strength is not kindness. It is not positivity. It is not emotional exposure. Strength is self-possession under pressure. The unbreakable mind is not optimistic. It is grounded. It does not deny suffering. It metabolizes it. This is the point where the shadow stops being projected outward and begins to be integrated inward. Anger condenses into stillness. Fear sharpens into precision. Resentment collapses into silence. Pain is no longer a reason to complain. It becomes data. Data is cold. Data is objective. When a bridge collapses, engineers do not mourn the steel. They study the fracture. You must become the engineer of your own collapse. Every time you felt hurt in the past, it was because you had an attachment to an outcome you could not control. You wanted a specific person to love you. You wanted the world to be fair. The unbreakable mind realizes that fairness is a fairy tale told to children to keep them compliant. The universe is not fair. It is functional. It follows the laws of cause and effect. When you stop moralizing your pain, you start utilizing it. You begin to look at your trauma not as a wound to be healed, but as an endowment of energy. You realize that the very thing that tried to break you has actually provided the pressure necessary to crystallize your will. You are not healing. You are integrating. Healing implies returning to a previous state. Integrating means becoming something entirely new, something that the original trauma could never have imagined. And this is where initiation begins. A terrifying mind is not aggressive. It is non-reactive. You stop answering emotional bait, not through discipline, but through perspective. You see it as beneath you. You let misunderstandings stand. You allow others to sit inside their projections without rescuing them. You stop clarifying intentions. Your actions speak in delayed echoes. You do not rush to correct narratives because time corrects them more brutally than words ever could. This creates a vacuum, and vacuums force confrontation. In the age of oversharing, privacy is a superpower. Digital transparency has turned the human psyche into a strip mall. Everything is on display, priced for sale, and illuminated by neon lights. When you choose the void, you become a dark territory. In warfare, the most dangerous enemy is the one whose location is unknown and whose intentions are unstated. Your silence is a mirror. People who are uncomfortable with themselves will see their own demons reflected in your quietness. Let them build a monster out of your silence. That monster will do the work of 1,000 words. Silence becomes leverage. Stillness becomes authority. This is power without performance, dominance without force. But understand this clearly. Techniques are meaningless without an identity shift. If you need to be seen as strong, you will leak strength. If you want to intimidate, you will become transparent. The unbreakable mind is not built by acting strong. It is built by removing dependency. Dependency on praise, dependency on explanation, dependency on emotional discharge. When these dissolve, something colder and cleaner takes their place. Not cruelty, clarity. And clarity unsettles people because it exposes their chaos. Here is the illusion you lived under, that being understood would protect you. It never did. Understanding made you predictable. Predictability made you controllable. Once you accept this, you stop chasing resonance. You stop translating yourself into smaller, softer forms. You become dense. Density is not a mask. It is an energetic reality. Most people live as gas, expansive, thin, and easily blown about by the slightest wind of opinion. They fill every corner of a room with their need to be seen, yet they leave no lasting mark. When you develop containment, you occupy a specific coordinate in space and time that cannot be negotiated. And density bends rooms. Presence replaces performance. Gravity replaces volume. This is why people feel you before they understand you. The ultimate stage of this transformation is the loss of the internal witness. For most of your life, you have had a voice in your head narrating your actions to an imaginary audience. The unbreakable mind kills the audience. When there is no one left to perform for, not even yourself, you achieve a state of total presence. You do because you do. You are no longer trying to be strong. You have simply run out of the energy required to be weak. This is the end of the struggle. It is the weight of a mountain. The mountain does not try to stay still. It just is. Now, the task. For the next 7 days, do not explain yourself unless absolutely necessary. Do not defend your tone. Do not clarify intentions. Do not rush to repair discomfort. Let others feel what they feel. Their emotional regulation is not your responsibility. Your only task is to remain internally unbroken. Notice what rises in you: the urge to soften, the urge to be liked, the urge to be forgiven for existing. Do nothing with it. Contain it. This is how the mind hardens, not through force, but through refusal. If this transmission resonates, you already know why you are here. This channel is not for growth. It is for those who are done leaking themselves into the world. Stay if you are willing to be sharpened. Leave if you are still seeking comfort. Both are honest paths. A strong mind does not need to be feared. It simply refuses to break. And the world adjusts around it.